Welcome back. So in the last lecture, we downloaded our installer file for VirtualBox, and we also downloaded the ISO image for Kali Linux. Now it is time that we combine these two together in order to create our first virtual machine. But of course, to do that, we need to install VirtualBox first with this installer file. So double click on the VirtualBox installer file. It will require administrator privileges. Simply just input your admin password and it will open this window welcoming you to the VirtualBox. Now it says here the setup wizard will install Oracle VM VirtualBox on your computer. Click next to continue or cancel to exit setup wizard. We want to proceed, so I'll just click on next. Here under the custom setup, I personally won't be changing anything. You don't need to change anything as well. You might want to change location if you prefer a different location to this one, but I do advise that you leave this location and that you just proceed to the next step by clicking next. And here we got a warning that says installing Oracle VM VirtualBox networking feature will reset your network connection and temporarily disconnect you from the network. Now, it's just a warning that says you might be disconnected from the network while installing VirtualBox. Now, in my personal experience, this has never happened, but it might happen for you. So if you're doing anything important over the network at the moment, wait for that to finish and then proceed with the VirtualBox installation. I will just proceed with the installation right now by clicking on next or on yes, and it will tell me that there are certain missing dependencies. Now, in order to install them, you simply just click on yes, and you click install to begin installation. So I'll just click on install. This shouldn't take too long. It might take 30 seconds or up to a minute for installation to finish. And once it finishes, we will get this window prompted that says start Oracle VM VirtualBox after installation. We want to click on finish. And in just a few seconds, here it is, we get VirtualBox window opened. Now, in your case, the window will not look like this. I already have some virtual machines installed. You won't have any of these machines installed on the left side. Your window will look something like this. Now, it should welcome you to VirtualBox, but once again, you won't have these machines installed or available on the left side, but more about that later once we install the virtual machines. For now on, we're going to pretend as these don't exist, and we're going to create our first virtual machine. So to create our first virtual machine, we want to click on this new button. If I click on new, it will open this window where it will ask me certain questions about the virtual machine that I want to create. The first question is name. So I'll just call it Kali Linux 2023. I'll just leave it at that. You can call it whatever you want. You can simply just call it Kali Linux. It doesn't matter. Now what matters is this ISO image. Here we want to select the ISO image of Kali Linux that we downloaded. So since it says that it is not selected, I want to click on here. I want to click on other and simply just navigate to where you have your Kali Linux ISO image saved. In my personal case, it is on desktop, and here it is. I'll just click it and click on open. And you can see right here, it selected the path to the ISO image. Under type, we want to have it set to Linux. And under the version, if you remember from the Kali Linux official page, it said that it was Debian-based operating system. So ideally here we want to find Debian operating system, which is right here. We can see that it has a bunch of versions, but we can simply just choose the regular Debian 64-bit. Now, of course, if you downloaded the 32-bit Kali Linux image, if your host machine is 32-bit machine, you can simply just use Debian 32-bit. Since I'm on Windows 11 64-bit machine, I will select Debian 64-bit. Once we do that, we can navigate to unattended install, and there is nothing that we need to change right here. We can proceed to hardware, and here is where it gets a little bit tricky. Remember that I said that virtual machines will use your hardware resources? Well, here we need to allocate those hardware resources. Here, the first question that it asks us is the base memory or RAM memory that we want to give to our virtual machine. Now, this will be different for everyone depending on what RAM memory or how many gigabytes of RAM you have. In my personal case, I have 64 gigabytes of RAM, so I'll just allocate 4 gigabytes of RAM to my virtual machine. Now, if you have less than 16, I do advise that you lower this to 2 gigabytes of RAM. For example, if you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, 2 gigabytes of RAM for Kali Linux will be more than enough for it to run properly. If you have 4 gigabytes of RAM, then you can proceed with either 2 gigabytes or you can even try lowering it to 1 gigabyte of RAM, but 2 gigabytes will be ideal. Now once again, I'll proceed with 4, and under the processors, you can simply just leave it on one CPU core. No matter how many CPU cores you have, it will work just fine with one processor running for the VM. Now we go down to hard disk, and here we want to allocate space for Kali Linux virtual machine. Now, by default, it will set it to 20 gigabytes, but that will not be enough. You ideally want to have it between 30 and 40 gigabytes of free space for the virtual machine. I will leave it on 40, just like this. This should be more than enough for the virtual machine to run, and all we have to do right now is click on Finish. And once you click on Finish, you will have your first virtual machine added right here on the left side. In my case, here is the virtual machine that we just created, Kali Linux 2023. If you click on it, you can see all of its settings on the right side. We can see that we allocated 4 gigabytes of RAM right here. We used Debian 64-bit operating system, and you can see all the other settings that we used to create this virtual machine. Okay, awesome. Now that we created this virtual machine, in the next lecture, we're going to start it for the first time in order to install the operating system.
Thanks for watching the video till the end. Please leave your thoughts below so we can discuss more about the topic. If you'd like to suggest a video that could help the community, feel free to message me on X or Instagram. We also share short videos on Instagram, so make sure to follow us there. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and might even create a video based on your suggestion. Thanks again for being part of our community. See you in the next video.